You're listening to On the Margins with me, Dan O'Sullivan.
And me, Eamon Stack-Mulvihill.
In this podcast, we will examine sites of education which are off the beaten track, non-traditional, non-typical, but diverse and exceptional, looking at learners who are often marginalised and ignored. So, Eamon, a bit of a strange one today. We've no guest, it's just the two of us. We're going to recap our first foray into podcasting with On the Margins. And what are we doing today? We're doing kind of a review of what we're calling Season 1.
Yes, review of Season 1. It's definitely flipping the script a bit because the pressure's on us now to talk for the full 45 minutes or so. But looking forward to going through our main takeaways from the different guests and different items that we took from each of the episodes.
Yeah, I suppose I was very nervous starting as well. I suppose, you're doing a podcast, what's going on with you and your mad notions, and then worrying about sound quality, which was a major concern, and then you really stepped up to the mark in terms of technical prowess, whereas I just kind of blather on an awful lot. And we had, when we were starting out, do you remember the day we were doing here, the first day we did in the studio, and JJ Hegarty came in?
We had, I suppose we must have been here 2 hours trying to record the blurb for the podcast, and then we also talked about actually interviewing JJ. It took us the full 2 hours. We got through the blurb after I don't know how much work, and then we realised once we left the studio that we hadn't one thing saved. So that was a great first day.
Well, I don't think we did the full 2 hours without saving anything. I think we did like an hour and a half, then realised we hadn't saved anything. And JJ was really patient. I'd originally approached JJ to interview him because he spent many years working in the prison and teaching art. He's also a very talented musician.
Yes.
But JJ, thank you very much for your patience coming in here at our first attempt at trying to figure out what we were doing. I have to say, I mean, your technical prowess now has just... I'm sitting here like granddad trying to program the VCR, and Eamon's just doing everything, and I'm kind of sitting there holding his coat, hoping he's doing it right,
Sometimes it's technical prowess, and then other times it's just being stubborn or ignorant. But thankfully it has worked out for the course of the season anyway. I suppose we'll start with maybe Anita, because she was our first guest.
Yeah, maybe before we get to that, we might just talk a little bit about why we got going with the podcast. I suppose I approached you sometime last year about this conference.
Yeah.
So we did a conference. It was called Transformative Narratives, and we had kind of a focus on empathy building techniques that would be used in schools and other settings, not limited to schools. And we got people from, who were coming at it from a restorative practice point of view.
Yep.
We had a lot of people from Narrative 4 there, and then we had people who were doing these techniques in their schools.
Yeah.
And then, amazingly, I got contacted by a lot of people in the prison service, which... because I suppose you forget. I mean, people, when you think of school and education, you're inclined to think primary school, secondary school, and that's it.
Yeah.
But there's so much that goes on out in the community, adult and community education. I suppose in a prison, everything that happens on the outside has to happen in there as well.
Exactly.
And I suppose we really are kind of hitting diverse and kind of niche educational interests.
On the margins, I think you'd call it, is it?
Yeah. So our first guest then, Anita, actually came to that conference.
Yes.
And you were kind of the technical director of that conference, I believe. Yeah, Anita came and she brought some of her colleagues from the education unit at Limerick Prison. And Anita was our first guest. So Anita was great crack. And actually, I think she's one of our most popular and most downloaded episodes.
Yeah.
Anita was very brave as well. And I think she was giving us more credit than we deserve for knowing what we were doing. But I think we pulled it off brilliantly. And I don't know, I think we came across as very professional. But we great crack with Anita. One of the biggest takeaways I had from talking to Anita was one, how kind she was as a person, and you know, when you think of Limerick Prison, you're in my mind anyway. Before I went there, and incidentally, we both ended up going there. Yeah, we'll talk about that.
Not after breaking laws. No.
We'll talk about that in a sec. But you know, you tend to think of prison as kind of a very harsh environment. But I think Anita definitely struck me as a very kind person who cared very deeply about her students in the prison. But then the thing that really, the takeaway I have from that was she was going up to Dublin, I think, for a concert or something like that. And there was two, I don't know, for want of a better word, gougers, kind of banged down the bonnet of her car. And the kind of Mother Teresa
in her,
was gone out the window, and she suddenly turned into, you know, Paul O'Connell at the bottom of a ruck, you know, coming out to defend her babies in the car, you know. So I thought that was an interesting, what are we calling that? Dichotomy. What's a better word?
I'm not sure. I think dichotomy is along the lines, all right, but
it's kind of a Jekyll and Hyde moment for her.
There's a line that you have to draw between, I suppose, being in there and being out here, and she done that very well. I suppose another thing that I took from the whole prison education episode and from visiting the prison as well is like the impact and the benefit of prison education. Beforehand, and I can say from conversations with people that I've had after meeting Anita, that their beliefs around prison education is that you're put into prison because you've done something wrong, and that's it. Lock the door, throw away the key. We don't really think about that anymore, and good riddance. But it was great to see Anita's viewpoint and to think about my own viewpoint on it, and that prison education is not about trying to tame anyone. It's not trying to stop them doing harm in the future. It's about giving them the autonomy and giving them the skills that when they eventually get out of prison, or hopefully get out of prison, that they can go on and have a positive impact on society.
Yeah, I very much agree with you there on they weren't judging people for what they'd done. I do think they had a bit of a focus on preventing them from doing something in the future, maybe by, you know, giving them an alternative skill set or whatever else. And I think as well, the personal development stuff was very important, and managing yourself and kind of finding a way to escape a cycle of destructive behaviour. Yeah. Which we'll talk about very much in season 2, because we have an excellent guest coming up to talk on that, but that's not for our listeners today. The other thing was I got to talk to a very high profile female prisoner. I won't mention her name now because it might get people in trouble or whatever, but we were invited to visit the prison, and for whatever was going on in our lives, we ended up doing it in different days. So I had to go in on my own. I was very brave. Eamon wasn't there to hold my hand. But I did get to meet a very high profile female prisoner who'd been there for a very long time. And she was saying, I said to her, like, you know, do you use the education unit? Yeah. And she kind of did say to me, you know, after 20 years, or whatever, however long it was around that kind of time span. It might have been quite 20, but what do they have for me? You know. So I suppose a lot of the people going in there would have, you know, low educational attainment. Yeah. But after a while, if you're there for a very long time, where do you go? And then I went to a conference above in Maynooth, and they were talking about expanding access to higher level education, and they specifically identified, or to people with convictions, expanding access to higher education to people with convictions. They were specifically identifying lifers for as people who needed access to higher education because they're there so long. And after 20 years, you don't want to be doing your FETAC level 4 and 5 as good as they are, but like they're not going to keep you engaged for that amount of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's something we spoke about with Anita and after the podcast itself as well, that like there's still so much to be done in terms of supporting people, not only while they're in prison, but when they get out, and making sure that the recidivism rate, if that's the word, or reoffending rate is kept as low as possible, or almost eliminated, which is a massive difficulty and a massive problem that it won't be solved today, but working towards it is going to be important.
I think I was at some conference or another, might have been the same conference, and I think I was above in Mountjoy actually. Again, as an observer stroke guest, not as a prisoner. And there was a lady there, powerful lady, I can't remember her name, but she had a similar role to Anita. Her passion for the prisoners was, it was oozing out of every pore of her. And she said, we really have to kind of prepare a lot of these guys for long-term unemployment, because the gap is so big, and particularly guys who are there for very short stints. And the prisons are completely overcrowded. So, I mean, I think you get a third. There's a word for it. But if you, as soon as you go into prison gate, if you've got 3 years, you're down to 2 immediately. 2, yes. Yeah. And then if they're too full and, you're not that much of a threat, they kind of let you go very early. Mm-hmm. So these short-term sentences aren't particularly useful in terms of rehabilitation. Yep. And then the other thing is how useful is prison as a concept anyway.
Yeah, absolutely. I suppose we'll look at our next podcast which was with Sive O'Dwyer. Sive was someone who was a teacher to me once upon a time when I was in third level, and she is someone who is has
she has dyspraxia.
That's it.
So I actually was teaching a module. I was a tutor.
Yes.
And Sive was the lecturer, and she, I suppose, special educational needs.
Yes.
And we won't worry about is it special educational needs and inclusion or special educational needs and disability. It's special educational needs. That's enough for us to know what we're talking about. Sive again was great crack, and I had watched the film. It's a great film, even from a strictly entertainment point of view, about Temple Grandin. And Temple Grandin is a researcher who was autistic. And I think it's on Netflix. It's very entertaining, but she does very well at school. Her struggle is, the subject matter of the film. And she goes on, she does her PhD, and it's she works mainly with animals. But the laughing we had with Sive was great, but the sound quality, we didn't get that one right on that occasion. So maybe we might get Sive back in again.
Absolutely.
So when we were talking with Sive, there was Temple Grandin builds a machine to kind of give herself a hug, because whatever way her autism manifests itself, she's not great with human contact, but she still has the basic human needs. So she builds a machine to give herself a hug, and then I think she's at university at this point, and the university comes across it and makes her remove it because they think it's kind of a sex toy. So I don't think Sive had seen the film, and I was explaining this to Sive, and I could just see the horror on her face sitting across from me, and the sweat coming out her brow, saying, what is he going to say next? We had fun.
Yeah, another thing that I thought was very admirable from Sive's episode was her reframing, I suppose, of the term that we have, a learning difficulty or a special educational need, changing that to a learning difference, and seeing that in like a different light, because it's something that I'd say a lot of us are guilty of that when we hear of any educational need or difference. We often see it as a difficulty as opposed to something that we can incorporate in our teaching if we're teachers, or incorporate in how we deal with people so that we can actually get the best out of those conversations or actions.
I mean, reframing what would have been in the past considered kind of a disability as, you know, a different way of seeing the world, and you know, that's an advantage in a lot of ways. I'm thinking now of who's that comedian, the Liverpudlian guy. Do you know the guy I'm talking about?
Lee Edwards, no?
No, John Bishop, I think his name is. Yeah. So he's talking about being at school and he's diagnosed with dyslexia, and he says these days, you know, you'd be put into, you'd get all the adequate support, and you know, your self-esteem would be looked after. But when he was young, they called his parents in and said, make sure he can lift heavy things. Which is kind of a backwards way of looking at it. But to make him feel better, he lived near the Welsh border. So his father drove him across the Welsh border and pointed at the place name with all the L's and Y's and W's and said, see, son, you're not the only one. So
Very good, very good. That's ringing a bell for me for another comedian, and he was a teacher once upon a time. Dara O'Brien, I think, is the right comedian, but I'm horrible with names. I won't go into the story because it's fairly vulgar, and it's probably not for this podcast today. But maybe in the future, maybe we'll have Dara on. If you want to hear that story, it's available definitely on YouTube. He talks about it on the Graham Norton podcast. It is or the Graham Norton show rather. It's a funny one.
Is that the working with the hearing impaired?
That's the one.
It's not Dara O'Brien. It's the big tall guy, Taskmaster.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah, and he has the microphone on.
Yeah.
When he goes to the toilet. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I think we went through that on the episode with Saif.
Very good.
Yeah, I suppose the thing that left me then with Saif was so she discovered as part of her research that she was actually dyspraxic while administering a test to people to discover if they were dyspraxic. She realised she had it herself. And she's just had such an intense passion for her work. Also, this is very common among people from that part of the world. But the Tipperary pride was kind of
really standing out.
It left a lasting impression anyway.
So next on the podcast, we had Veronica Ryan and Peadar Kirby. This was a little off-brand, I suppose, that some people may have thought with regards to the podcast. But Veronica and Peadar were from Cloughjordan, which is an eco-village in County Tipperary. And we actually travelled up to Tipperary then to learn about what an eco-village is, their position as an educational charity, and also like the many difficulties that they have in pushing the boundaries for what an eco-village is. They're often limited by the likes of planning issues and things like that. But it was a really interesting episode, and one thing that I really enjoyed, which we didn't get to talk about or to bring you all on during the episode, was we got a tour just beforehand, and it was very good to see all the different aspects of the community which they've developed in an eco-friendly manner.
I was absolutely blown away by the beauty of the eco village, which is beside Cloughjordan. I mean, there's a village at Cloughjordan that's just for where people live who kind of live the same way as we do.
Yes,
but this like. I suppose the pioneering kind of attitude they had, the can-do attitude they had, and they really made it happen. Because I suppose a lot of the time with this, when people talk about sustainability and ecology, there's kind of an impending sense of doom.
Yep.
And there's kind of, it's too late and we can't do it. And just this can-do attitude. And then, you're going out and they're, are they going to be living in Watland mud huts or something? The houses were absolutely beautiful.
Phenomenal,
they were fine, big houses. They fit into the landscape. They looked really well. And it's just walking around the place. The houses were almost part of nature.
Yeah.
And they were still the same fine houses that any of our listeners might live in, but they really seemed to just kind of fit in with the natural landscape, and not even is landscape too strong a word. The way the other spaces were done surrounding the houses, the nature paths, and then just being led on the tour, the kind of sense of calm you got.
Massive, yeah.
Because you felt, I didn't even notice it happening until we kind of finished the tour. Just how calm and relaxed I was, because I'd been, even though I was in a community where people live, I was immersed in nature.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, it was David Attenborough's birthday when we went up there, and it was the first episode we did on location. So, and I'm just recalling then as well, Patter was, he's a retired professor.
Yeah.
And that title is Professor Emeritus.
Emeritus.
And then my Limerick accent kind of had a little spasm, and I said, "Emeritus," and then I felt like a right fool.
Yeah.
The biggest takeaway from that experience, and talking with Patter and Victoria, was just the hope.
Yep.
And the calm and
There was a real, I suppose, sense of community there as well that I took on board. Like when we were talking about from the initiation of the village back in the early noughties, if I'm right, right to today, like the sense of community, the belonging and the togetherness of the whole community. They were all a part of different initiatives, and they all dedicated some time every week to contributing to the community itself. And you could really see it and feel it while you were in the village, which was lovely to see.
And they weren't smelly, and they weren't hippies. It was really an amazing experience, and the beauty of the place, and the fact that they just made it happen. It really, I found that a really inspiring visit, and it's just the small little changes they made. Also, some of the food they produced on the site,
sourdough bread.
Sourdough bread, none of it. Like, you're not looking at the packet going, how many processed ingredients in this, how many numbers. No, it's all fresh, prepared on site, local. It's exactly what you want. Okay, so then we had John Roach, who is the director of Engage in Education. So I do a little bit of work with Engage in Education because I think it's an absolutely amazing initiative. It's actually been going for a very long time. It's gone over 30 years, I think. But what it does, it's an educational charity, and it basically reaches out to students, not limited to, but they focus primarily on students from South Hill, Weston, St Mary's Park, and Moyross. And St Mary's Park is in there, So what they do, I suppose John had a background in residential care. He was involved in Garda diversion, and I suppose what struck me a lot about John was so John has roots in these communities, but also he was, because of his experience in residential care and in Garda diversion, he had a big focus on bang for your buck and return on investment, and not throwing good money after bad. And he said to me one day, and it stuck with me since. He said, when you talk about these communities, South Hill, Weston, St Mary's Park, Moyross, it's all sensationalized. It's whatever criminal enterprise is happening in the Sunday world or whatever it is, and it struck a chord with me from my time in Youthreach, because you'd have a centre full of kids, and to be maybe 2-3 kids that they'd have that kind of profile, they'd be involved in serious crime, but it'd be 2 or 3 of them, and that kind of tarred everyone else. And the other thing was, you spent all your time with these 2 or 3 kids. And for better or worse, some people are just set on a certain path, and with all the goodwill in the world, you can't divert them from it. But if you spend all your time trying to divert the small minority from the path they're on, you're missing all the other kids in the neighbourhood or in the centre or wherever it is you are. And that's a lesson that I really picked up from John. And what Engage does is it targets highly motivated kids or young people in these communities, and it just gives them those little extra bits of support. So I don't know, did you get any grinds when you were going to school? You got
at some stage.
Yeah, you must have. Like, you got 100 points more than me in your leaving certs. I definitely got grinds as well, and there was and these Easter revision camps and all the rest of it, and I mean, my parents could pay for it. I mean, I know that
we were in a privileged position to be able to get those grinds.
Yeah, and like, I didn't want them, but my mammy knew I needed them, and I got them, and if there was ever something like that I needed, I certainly got it, and there was no question of it. Even if I resisted it a little bit, because I prefer to be kicking a football or playing a PlayStation, I suppose. But these kids who are involved in Engage, they're making the effort to turn up to these things when they're organised for them, whether it's a revision camp, whether it's meeting with a mentor, whether it's extra tuition. And it's just bridging a gap, and it's giving them. It seems so simple, but it makes such a difference.
Massive.
And then there's the community element of it as well. There's seeing students who'd have gone through Engage come back and talk to students who are in the same position as them, and with all kind of educational disadvantage, just see it to be a thing, I think, is very important. Very important,
It is very well thought out by John as well, in that they had the three different, I suppose, packages or programs, which were the Nurture, the Compass and Engage, and it meant that students right through from primary school all the way to the completion of their third level programs, that they had these touch points that they could pop in and out with Engage, and get feedback, get support, get funding if that's what was required. It was something to behold, in fairness, the amount of work that John put into it and the benefits that it provided.
Yeah, and John even wanted to start earlier.
Yeah.
He was, you've limited resources.
Yeah.
But he was saying, even if you started in, what we call a play school, creche or whatever. But I think another important element of that as well was the community outreach, and the meeting the parents, and having kind of information evenings for parents, because a lot of the time there's let's be complex and call it a social capital gap. If the parents haven't gone to college, they don't understand the roots, and there's a whole lot of services there that are there to give people a leg up. But if you don't know they're there, or how to access them, and then they have deadlines, they've cut off dates, and small things. Then, like, you're doing a bit of overtime at Christmas time to get your kid the PlayStation that they want or whatever, and now you're over the income threshold. So having Engaged there to support the parents as well as the students and the community as a whole was very important.
Next on the podcast, we had Sorka Wharton August. She was coming from St. Mary's Adult Education Centre. So this was almost following on from what we talked about with John. And it was providing parents and people in the Limerick City area with different educational supports and programmes in the area, such as community employment. And we also had stuff as simple as literacy and numeracy programmes, so that those parents could support their kids, be that in primary school, in secondary school, or getting into third level education.
Yeah, I remember she had a dual role, so she was also the community employment supervisor.
Yes.
As well as the manager of the Adult Education Centre. And you mentioned the kids there, because that's, and literacy. That is so often the prompt for adult learners who are absolute ninjas at hiding the fact that they have a literacy difficulty.
Yep.
But it's often the prompt for people to go back and to do a literacy course is they need to help their kids with the homework, or they want to read them a bedtime story or whatever it is. And then the one of the other things that struck me about our conversation with Sorka was on the community employment scheme. They're not getting a whole pile of money.
No.
I think it amounted to, I don't know, was it another €20 or something like that?
On top of it all, or on top of social welfare.
Yeah, and you're doing 19 or 20 hours a week for that. So these are people that really, really do want to work, but maybe there's something there, maybe a caring responsibility. They're looking after an elderly person, a relation, or maybe they have kids to look after. That's preventing them from working full time. So I suppose there's a stereotype out there, that they're all scroungers or whatever. But this couldn't be anything further from the truth. These are people who are doing, 20 hours for basically the packet of fags, at the price of a packet of fags, because they want to make a positive contribution to their community, and at the same time, I suppose they're getting, they're getting to improve their education as well along the way. So, I also think these adult education centres and community centres, they really are the heart of our communities. And even how integrated they are with the... Was it the primary school? It was a primary school.
It was, yeah, linked with the primary school.
And was there a creche there as well?
There was, I think, on site or just off site, they had the creche linked in with it as well. I'm not sure exactly how, but...
We must go and have a look at that someday, and get behind. And I think as well, it's behind one of the Limerick City's ancient walls.
Yes.
From the song Sean South, ancient walls and unbroken treaty stone. Yeah, if those are the lyrics. We must get in there and have a look at it sometime.
Definitely. I think we'll have a couple of days worth of road trips around the city. But we'll have definitely a couple of places to visit after this season concludes. Next on the podcast, we had Declan Rogers and Cian Williams. Both of the lads, Dan, you knew one of them personally, I suppose. Not sure if that's the right term or not. But Dan knew both of them from before we recorded the episode. And both of the lads had been brought into the university with thanks to the Access Office. And if I'm right, one of them had also worked with Engage.
Yeah, so I didn't actually know Cian, but I knew Declan because Declan is one of my students, and he's graduating in August. What really struck me from my conversation with both Declan and Cian was how much they valued the services in the Access Office. And outside, I suppose, of the financial supports and the other things you get, they really placed a high value on the relationship and the connections they made with people within the Access Office. Declan is really, really lovely guy, but he appreciates it so much. All the help he's been given by the people in the Access Office, that he's working there. I don't know, will he be going back there in September? But he's been involved with projects with them throughout the last 2 years, as far as I know, and he's really, really keen to kind of give back a little bit, I suppose. He appreciates it so much. Cian is the same. And Cian is an Engaged student, is well, I remember Cian telling us that he started college the same day as his ma. I just had visions of Cian running out the back door of the stables during Rag Week because his ma was sitting there having dinner. I can't imagine starting college the same day as me ma.
It was great to see from the two lads the importance and the benefit of the programs like the Access Office, UL Global and Engage, and the impact they were having on both Keane and Declan, but also like on the wider community, which was great to see. It was also, as you mentioned then, good to see how circular the whole thing was, in that Declan and Keane were both giving back. They were both helping out in the Access office and Engage as well, following the benefit that they got from it. One other thing that struck me from the chat with the two boys was we were talking about the Access office and Access offices in general, and that there's still, I suppose, one barrier to entry is that as we talked about earlier, maybe parents are not as literate or as comfortable working with devices, and so when they try to gain access to these services, that's often a barrier to entry, in that they're not comfortable or confident in filling out these forms and getting access to their students.
Well, I remember in particular, Declan would have, he'd be coming from a traveller background, and he would have then been in contact with Adele O'Donnell.
Yes.
And I remember Adele was talking to a group of engaged students that I was showing around with the project workers as well. And just the level of detail in terms of the paperwork that needed to be filled out that Adele had at her fingertips. And the... okay, so if you go down Avenue A and it's closed off for whatever reason, we'll try B, C, and D, and they have to be in. And she had the exact date for everything. I'd say she knew the time of day it had to be in. And just that intimate knowledge of the system. And just like... I've never heard anyone so with such knowledge. And
so giving of her time as well.
Yeah, I mean Declan would build a statue to her, I'd say. And she really does go the extra mile. And I think all of them in the Access office, they're like that. They're really passionate about what they do. They really, and we had someone else on from the Access office, but the release of the episode has been delayed. But just the passion, and they spoke about the connections they make with the people who are the service users, and how valuable they are to them in terms of job satisfaction as well. So there's really amazing work being done over there.
I suppose a real takeaway from that would be that maybe there is a barrier to entry there, but from getting through it from the two lads and their experiences, it is not just worth it, it is so worth it on the other side, the benefit and the reward that you get from engaging with these services.
So then we had PJ. PJ was a home education assessor with TUSLA. But that's not all PJ was. PJ had done a bit of everything. He had been a secondary teacher and a school principal, so he really did have a whole lot of experience. And I suppose when this is something that's homeschooling is kind of something that is kind of closed off. I suppose it's not something. It really is a niche kind of area.
Yeah.
And I suppose we were trying to understand why people would want to homeschool their children. I mean, I have a young daughter, and one of my buddies has a daughter of a similar age, and they're choosing not to go to the creche yet. Okay. And you're mad. You're mad. That few hours a day when you get your life back, it's invaluable, And I suppose, it's such a big commitment, homeschooling.
Massive.
From, you're talking, I mean, it's most of their lives. The other side of it then is, aside from all the other reasons that people might want to homeschool, I suppose for most of your children's lives, you'll know them as an adult.
Yep.
There's only a small amount of time, a tiny fraction of their lives that you know them as a child. So I suppose you do get that that quality time in a
That you
way
can spend with them, yeah.
that other parents won't. So that's one element of it. But I don't think those were the motivating factors. I think a lot of them were. PJ did mention Germans.
Yes, there was. So one part of the reason that there's such a boom in homeschooling here in Ireland was the, I suppose, unique Irish constitution that he spoke about, and that it facilitates or it allows homeschooling to take place here, whereas in Germany, for example, it's not that easy. And then, as well as that, PJ did talk about the different areas of homeschool. So it's not just homeschool in terms of I might be a parent and I might teach my children, if I have 3 children, for example. There was different communities set up. There was private schools as well. So he talked about a case in Dublin, if I'm right, where he went to the school and it was a privately run school, but they still have classes like every other school in the country, and it runs very similarly to a school that we might see or know.
And we interviewed someone yesterday who'll be on season 2, I think, that we can't tell you about yet. But he was based in the north.
Yes.
And a similar thing, they had set up a school that wouldn't fit into the mainstream schooling system because it was through the medium of Irish. And I suppose, I think he said it was set up in 1990 or around that time, where the British government was not keen on funding Irish medium language schools in the north. And I suppose probably for those, the political struggle and the history of Ireland is why we have the provision in the Constitution. Yeah. I'd say Patrick Pearse as a revolutionary is an interesting character, but there's a whole other side there that I suppose a lot of people won't know is Pearse the educationalist. So he did set up a lot of schools, and I suppose he would have had a huge influence on the Republican movement, the nationalist movement at the creation of the state. And then I think PJ also did mention Germans.
Yes.
And so I suppose for different reasons, they don't have the provision to allow homeschooling, and they'd be historically rooted as well.
Yes.
Then next up we had Joe Power. Joe is a trainer in restorative practice, but he also runs a business called Restorative Living. I suppose Joe started off much like John Roach in a residential care setting.
Yes.
And I suppose the restorative practice emerged kind of from the justice system as well. And it's very powerful stuff. But I suppose in schools, maybe you might be minded to think of challenging behaviour. And just when you look at Joe physically, you see, because he's huge.
Massive,
man. He's the guy we need to talk about challenging behaviour for sure. And then although he might look quite physically imposing, he truly is a gentle giant, and he's a very, very kind man, and he really does break it down. I'd say, having got to know Joe a little bit, I'd say it would be very rare you get a crossword out of him.
Yeah. From that as well, I suppose the big takeaway I had was that restorative practice isn't just for in school. It's not just for in third level education. You can apply it almost or absolutely everywhere, really. It is something that we can take into our daily lives. He told us about how we could do that. We had the little business card that we could take away, the 7 steps, I think it was, or 5 steps. 6 steps, of course I get it wrong. But it was great to see that there's actionable changes that we can take from that and use it in our everyday lives. He was talking about or referenced conversations with his children, and they broke a TV. I think someone got the blame for it, but it was looking at maybe not how do we fix that problem, but who takes the blame? Why do we have restorative circles? And I suppose the benefit of that for equity for both sides.
Yeah, and I suppose it's kind of an emotional maturity. It's an emotional intelligence skill, and it allows people to kind of progress after something bad has happened or someone has done wrong. without leaving behind in its wake deep feelings of shame or guilt. It allows you to kind of say, okay, this happened, I did wrong, but I can move on and not hold this and hate myself for the rest of my life and act out whenever I'm reminded of it in any way. And it also it kind of facilitates an understanding between the person who has done wrong and the person who has been harmed. What I especially liked about our conversation with Joe was he was talking about upstream thinking, and because prevention is always better than cure.
Absolutely.
And you're saying, this community now is riddled with crime and substance abuse, and now we'll start to dehumanize these people and criminalize the whole community and stigmatize everyone who comes from there. And I suppose if you deal with these problems upstream, you deal with these problems in a primary school before they become lifelong kind of behaviour sets. It's a more efficient use of your resources and definitely your time. I'm a believer on this. And I know Joe does do. He does do training with primary school teachers and secondary school teachers, but I think it's very much something that should be done in all schools, and you do enter that. Some people don't like it, and they say it's kind of letting people off the hook in a wishy-washy way. And you do have to get into talking,
like an empathetic place.
You have to get into that empathetic space. You have to talk about emotions. You have to talk about feelings, and then that makes you vulnerable. And you have to be brave then to engage in the process, and you have to accept that vulnerability, and you have to be comfortable in that space, and you have to be right with yourself then if you're going to have the bravery to walk into that space. So it is a challenge. It's not for everyone, but for those who engage with it, it's certainly very rewarding.
Yeah, absolutely. Last but not least, then we had Helen Lowe, who is a university teacher here in the University of Limerick. But not only that, she has completed a PhD in the last 2 or 3 years, if I'm right. And I don't know how many jobs she talked about having during that time, and being a mother. So she was a truly inspirational guest that we had on for our final interview episode of the podcast. And I think, if I'm right, her PhD title aligned up with her own personality really well. She started off telling us about her PhD title, and some part of it said pure crack. And I thought it was a great way to start off with.
Yeah, so what struck me about Helen was how closely aligned kind of her life trajectory was with her research. And I suppose there's a bravery required there as well, because you have to kind of have a look at yourself if you're going to look at ethnography. She definitely gave a lot of credit to the church, which is kind of an unpopular move these days, for a whole host of reasons. She went to Mary I, so did I. And I think she got on a bit better there because she had a greater maturity than I did. One of the things that really struck me about Mary I was I had a bee in my bonnet about the church. Yes. And, I thought that, they should all change to suit me. Whereas that wasn't the case at all. And Helen spoke a lot about going down to the Scout Hall, which is now the community centre in Ballinacurra. It's called the West End now. It's community centre. It's managed by we met her. Do you remember we were there for the Limerick Traveller Network day? Is it Sarah Clifford? Anyway, and actually, my uncle, it used to be the Scout Hall.
Yes.
My uncle was the Scoutmaster there, and the sacristan in the church.
Yeah, spoke that day as well.
Yeah. But I have very little to do with the church these days. I suppose Helen was so passionate.
Yeah.
She talked about blame, shame, social capital, and kind of this idea that it's your fault. That you're poor or that you don't have these resources. It's because you don't work hard enough. I suppose it goes back, which obviously is not the case, and it goes back to the idea of, this kind of hyper-capitalistic American idea of pull yourself up by your bootstraps, and they're all temporarily embarrassed millionaires, so they don't want to tax the rich.
Like the difficulty in mobility between different social classes or economic classes was something that she dealt with really well, and she gave us great insights on. And then another thing, not linking back directly again to Joe's podcast, but she really believed in narrative 4 in restorative practice, which was something really powerful as well.
Yeah, I don't know that she got too much into restorative practice, but these empathetic, let's call it developing empathy. That was very important, and I think and she was very aware of this, and she spoke about a lady who came in to talk to them about educating kids from areas like West End and Prospect or wherever. And saying, the woman had come in, she'd done what Helen termed a poverty safari, and was now presenting, this is how you deal with these kids. And Helen disagreed with her. I suppose Helen had walked the walk, had done the talk. I was very impressed with her. Had you streaming when you went to school? The A, B, C, D.
We would have had some,
I was in the lower stream class. Helen ended up in the lower stream class, but I was very impressed with her. I was imagining her there. I suppose, what age was I? I was 12 when I was streamed. She might have been 12, 13.
Ish,
and ringing up the school and demanding that she be placed in a better class. I certainly would not have had the gumption to do that at 12 years of age. So I certainly, you kind of had to respect her moxie. She still has it, but like there was there when she was 12 years old, going up to the mount, to the nuns in the green uniform and putting it up to them. I can imagine her there with a little barrier hitting her, shaking her fist.
Yeah, fair play to her. It was inspiring to hear.
So, Eamon, we're calling this a season.
Yeah.
One of the things that sticks with me is, our approach has always been, we're not journalists.
Yep.
We want to improve people's understandings, but what we don't want to do is put someone on the spot or in a situation where they record a podcast with us that they're later embarrassed by, or that gets them into trouble at work or whatever. So we said at the outset that what we would do is we would record what we record here in the studio, then we'd share it with whoever our interviewee was, and they could review it. They could send it to a press office or, depending on where they were working, for review, and if they wanted to, or just listen to themselves and see if they were happy. We had one or two people who didn't
take so kindly.
Well, they were just, for whatever reason, we can't release a couple of the episodes that we have recorded, which is a pity, especially when you're there. That's absolute gold. People are going to love that. But, we kind of have to keep our word on that.
Exactly.
And maybe they'll come out in season 2.
Maybe, hopefully.
Some of the other things that struck me, I'm proud of what we've done.
It's been a great season.
Yeah, I'm proud of what we've done. I kind of sheepishly approached you. I I don't know how long ago it was. No, it was a couple of months ago anyway. It was maybe a year.
We're coming up on the year mark. I'd say around August is when we first met and said we'd put this kind of a recording thing together.
Yeah, I don't know if my kind of technical ability has improved at all because you just you're the man. But I'm thinking back to JJ now and yourself, and JJ knew how to use all these. The listeners can't see here, but there's a
colourful board of buttons.
A colourful board of buttons. Press a button there. Give us the. I think it's the red one.
We'll give ourselves a round of applause, I think.
All right.
No, that's not it.
Yeah, that was excellent. So Eamon has learned how to use all these things. My ability hasn't improved at all. But I think the takeaway, we were nervous starting this.
Yep.
Even getting people into the studio, we had to do 2 inductions.
Yeah.
Getting people into the studio with security, talk about a barrier to education. Yeah. You have to scan past the gate and all the rest of it. But I'm glad we jumped in. We did it. There was issues with sound quality sometimes that you sorted out while I held your coat. So thanks for that, Eamon. Had you a favourite episode?
I think the episode with Helen was probably the best. There was a great flow to it. We had great crack as we were recording, and everything came out as we planned. Like we talked about the audio and things like that. That did not go to plan in the episode, but we got there. We got there in the end, which was great.
Yeah. So I suppose my takeaway from this season, that's what we're calling it. I'm glad we did it. I'm proud of it. And if there's anyone out there who's thinking of doing something similar, just do it. Get started. The first one you do mightn't be great. We did spend 2.5 hours here with JJ falling over ourselves, and he was very tolerant. And thank you very much, JJ.
Yes.
So just do it. Get it out there, and you're going to make mistakes. Embrace them. Don't be afraid to just get started. And then another thing that struck me is the instability of my voice. Like sometimes I can sound very professorial, and then sometimes I sound like a lane lark from the deepest recesses of Limerick City. But did you have any issues with your accent or?
I think once people can understand me, I'm happy enough usually.
Yeah. You definitely sound more polished than me, I think. But, so with that, we have some episodes recorded for season 2 already.
Yep.
We will be taking a break for a little while. Mm-hmm. We are actively recording for season 2. We hope to improve in a lot of ways with our next season because we have learned an awful lot. And if you want to contact us, you can get us on our personal emails, which are available on our website, which is edonthemargins.com. We also have an email address for the pod, and it's edonthemargins@gmail.com. Leave feedback, leave comments, like, share, tell us what we're doing wrong, tell us what you like, what you don't like. And if you'd like to be on the podcast or you want to suggest someone, send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. Mm-hmm. And also, if you have friends in different parts of the world that you think might be interested in hearing from us, please send them a link. Because we're looking at our Acast insights and we're looking at the world map, and we want to get a download from every country in the world. It's just a pure notion, but that's how every good thing starts, with just a pure notion.
Definitely, but as Dan said, that's how we plan on growing the pod. We hope to value, or we do value you, the listener, in listening to what we're talking about, our mad notions, and trying to, I suppose, spread dialogue and chat amongst all these different aspects and wonderful parts of education. So thank you to the listener, and we hope to bring more into the future. To
borrow from Arnold Schwarzenegger, we'll be back.
Thank you for listening to this episode of On the Margins.
If you enjoyed this podcast, please follow and subscribe on all your usual platforms or wherever you get your podcasts.
You can also check us out on our website, aidonthemargins.com, for more info, content and